Live tonight from the virtual Rockingham Speedway. This is the season opener of the first ever Joe Gibbs Racing off-season action iRacing series. And we're happy to have you with us tonight live on the Joe Gibbs Racing Facebook page and RaceSpot. This track had hosted NASCAR Cup Series action from the 60s through the early 2000s, and tonight it makes its return in a virtual form as some of NASCAR's top and upcoming superstars in the JGR camp take to the iRacing.com service to go head-to-head against a couple of average Joes for 100 laps of action tonight. We're happy that you're with us, and topside myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside with Randy Jennett. And Randy, we're at the Rock tonight. It is a fun racetrack. We'll spend a little bit of time as the night goes on to explain a little bit more about this series and some of the other tracks that we'll go to, more familiar places like Talladega Superspeedway and the Homestead Miami Speedway. But starting it off a little bit old school tonight at a very fun track, one that I'm sure the sim drivers and the real-world drivers will really appreciate.
Rockingham's one of those racetracks that is a bit of a wild card, not used much in the real world anymore, but still a lot of fun. It runs sort of like a squash Darlington, really bumpy 1 mile oval, but over the course of this championship, handful of wild card tracks. This is one of them. Also have Lucas Oil as well as Bristol, but I'm really looking forward to tonight. 100 laps around the Rock, always good show.
You're taking a look as drivers get set to do qualifying. They just wrapped up a little bit over an hour of practice time, at which Tony Bongi was fastest in practice, putting down a 23.183 second lap time, and Denny Hamlin in the number 11 Toyota with a 23.233. Those are some of the names that we'll be talking about, I'm sure, as the night goes on, with drivers going out now for qualifying session as they get set to go racing for tonight's 100-lap contest. It is not a full race distance, if you were, per se, on a regular race day on a Sunday afternoon, but it is still a long race, and we have a big field in here tonight. There is a good mix of those regular Joes, the guys who race on iRacing for fun and are race fans when it comes to watching a lot of the guys are going to be competing against on Sundays, regularly. But then you have those bigger names, the Denny Hamlins as well. Some other names that we'll be talking about tonight. I think a big one as well, Ryan Preece. So I think it'll be fun to see how those guys match up head-to-head. And to be fair to the real-world guys, they're not completely coming into this iRacing service dry either. They have a fair amount of experience on this. I know that especially a lot of the younger guys coming up through the ranks in the trucks and the Xfinity series for NASCAR spend a lot more time sim racing as well. But even somebody like a Denny Hamlin, we've seen him on iRacing many a time over the course of 2017, raced with us with the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational. So don't think that these sim guys are going to walk all over the pros.
Denny Hamlin, who is someone who has a lot of experience doing sim racing and didn't just start with iRacing, it dates back well before then. And I mean, you mentioned the fact that some of these guys, they aren't coming in exactly unprepared. Right now, the top of the time sheets, you sort of get your virtual world and your real world already on the front row. Tyler Hudson, provisional pole with a 23.089. Denny Hamlin, the 11, currently sits on the outside of that front row with a 23.104. So the different variation, well, as I say that, Pedro Mega, he puts in a mega lap time with a 23.031, but still, a lot of the real drivers showing very good speed here in the virtual world compared to some of the top-tier competition that's run in this sim over the years.
And if you're not exactly familiar with what iRacing is, yes, there's somebody driving every single one of these cars. There's no AI or whatever. That Denny Hamlin is the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series driver. Denny Hamlin, Pedro Mega P1, Tyler Hudson P2 provisionally on the scoring pylon. Those are guys at their home racing on the iRacing service. Some of them has a basic as a setup, which anybody could get what I have, just a wheel and a pedal set on your desk. There's some other drivers, I'm sure the pros have a nice rig set up where it's a lot more similar to being in a real car. You can do virtual reality on the iRacing service. A lot of guys opt for the 3 screens. It's a lot more of an immersive experience, but iRacing is the leading online racing simulation. It was developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks from all around the world. So this version of the Rockingham Speedway is a laser-scanned replica of exactly what you would see if you went out to the racetrack in Richmond County, North Carolina when they scan this thing. It's as accurate as you could physically get in the online world. So for anybody here who may have had the chance of racing at this track or have just maybe simply been a spectator at a race here in the past, this is as good as it gets.
The laser scanning of these circuits is definitely the big selling point, and for every single track that we're going to do over this championship, as well as any car and any track combination you decide to come to the iRacing service and run, it is all laser scanned, laser accurate. iRacing, although they're well known for the sales side and for the public side, there's a regular racing simulation. They also do a lot of work with motorsports teams on the commercial side of things. So if you got a lot of teams coming to your sim saying, hey, you know what, we need this to prepare our drivers, our teams for a week in, week out basis, you know that what's coming out of it must be accurate, especially in terms of the racetracks, which is really, I think, the big selling point on this sim.
And there's a lot more than just NASCAR, obviously, road course racing options most recently, which I think ties into the same demographic we're talking about here, is, you know, obviously dirt oval racing, sprint cars, and late models and such. Just this week, iRacing introduced Global Rallycross. I think I'm a little biased when I say that NASCAR is my favorite go-to, but you can definitely find out more information on all of that at iRacing.com. But let's talk about the schedule for this season. Coming in at 8 races in length, we'll be with you every Sunday through the rest of the offseason. So if you've been a little bit deprived with the NASCAR offseason, we've got you covered all the way through our season finale, which will be on Sunday, February the 4th. Going to racetracks, as I kind of alluded to earlier, that more fit into the NASCAR realm on a regular basis. We'll be at Dover later on this year, Bristol, Homestead, Talladega. But the first half of the season, I think, is pretty fun. Tonight at Rockingham, next Sunday and the 17th of December, we'll be racing at another short track in Lucas Oil Raceway. We'll come back after the new year and have a fun event on Wednesday night at Eldora Speedway. And we're also going to toss these guys on a road course on January the 7th at COTA, Circuit of the Americas, where the U.S. Grand Prix is held for Formula One. So a very fun mix, but you're going to see everybody out on track tonight in their 2018 Toyota Camrys to get the season going. But a nice blend of different tracks will be seen over the course of this series as we race into February.
That's one of the things I love about this schedule. It's not just cookie cutters, Evan. It's, you know, yeah, you can make up a schedule and make it Texas and Charlotte and Atlanta and Chicagoland, but I love the fact that they had some fun with this schedule. A lot of short tracks early. Circuit of the Americas, not really a track we've ever seen NASCAR Cup cars on before. I know a few years ago there's a bit of a driver swap between a V8 supercar team as well as a NASCAR driver. They both ran those cars around that circuit, but we've never seen the cars there in competition. It would be a lot of fun to see that, and then cap it off the season with a couple races, as you said, we're a little bit more familiar with Dover, Homestead, and Dega.
Let's talk about, though, the place for tonight's race, the Rockingham Speedway. Not to get into the puns too early, but it is a rocky trip around this racetrack. It's a very old racetrack as far as we talk about when the last, you know, set of pavement was put down here, but it comes in at a mile in length. If you want to get technical, you could measure it differently or top or bottom, but we'll say it's a mile racetrack. So tonight's 100-lap affair going to be 100 miles start to finish. Mentioned that it's a pretty good race distance to race through with. It looks like about a field of nearly a full one and a 40 cars set to go. A little bit of progressive banking, 22 degrees at the bottom of the racetrack, 25 on the top of the racetrack, but just based on the shape of this track makes it very difficult to just kind of lazily go into a corner 2x2. This is going to be elbows up and close quarters racing start to finish. Doesn't matter. When we take the green flag, we're going to be 100 laps away for the end. These guys, you're going to see the intensity right out of the gate because this racetrack very unforgiving.
Exactly. Like I said, I compared it earlier, a bit of a squash Dover. Dover the same length and high banked oval and a bumpy oval as well, but it's a lot longer through the corner. You spend a lot more time of that lap going through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The straightaways are a bit longer, the corners are a bit tighter, and one of the things that you always get at Dover and one of the things you always get here at Rockingham is tire wear. Tires are going to be a huge talking point over the course of this 100-lap event. Likely going to see drivers make one, if at least one, probably 2 stops if things go green. And really, if we get any longer than a 15 or so lap run, if a caution does end up flying, we will likely expect to see people coming down pit lane because the tire drop-off will be a lot. Probably expecting somewhere in the lot of overrun like that, about half a second overlap.
I mentioned that we've seen some of the pros here on the iRacing service before, either in their spare time or, of course, in other outlets like the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series. I think this series, though, is going to be a little bit more fun because we're fighting for something. There's going to be an average Joe champion and the overall champion as well to see if maybe one of those guys can challenge with some of our professional drivers. But if one of our average guys gets the win up against the pros, that's $500 prize at the end of the year, so we're not fighting for nothing here. That's
a pretty significant prize, especially, you know, like you said, for some of the average guys. If you know, maybe not someone who has the pace to go out and win a championship, or maybe someone who doesn't have a real world ride. $500 to put on the line, that's a nice little reward for sitting in your pajamas playing a racing sim online.
And with that, though, qualifying's down. Let's go trackside for the first race of the year and introduce you to your RaceSpotTV starting grid as we take a look at top to bottom. The New Jersey fire sprinkler contractor Pedro Mega, one of our average Joes, is on pole position tonight with a 23.031. He will be joined by a NASCAR iRacing Series champion and iRacing employee Tyler Hudson, who will also roll off from the front row. A name that needs no introduction is on the inside of row number 2. Starting third tonight, the driver of the number 11 Toyota, that is Denny Hamlin. He will be joined from 4th place starter Adam Gilliland, with just behind Tim Thomas J. George starting P5.
Nick Thames is going to be rolling off from P number 6. In that 7th spot, Michael Guest in the number 74. Bobby Terrell is going to roll off P8. Tony Mons, row 9, and Malik Ray will round out your top 10.
AGR development driver Ty Gibbs will roll off at the 08 Tita machine starting at 11th position tonight, joined on the outside of row 6 by Stefan Baranek. Justin Fuller will start in 13th position with Travis Sullenberger at 14th and EJ O'Rourke in 15th.
Chris Gabot will roll off 16th, Joe Hudson 17th, Mike Kelly 18th, Jonathan Cadell 19th, and Austin Green will roll out the top 20.
Scott Simley will start tonight in 21st position. Brian Cook outside in 22nd spot. You've got Anthony Calatoni in 23rd. Steve Gottschalk in 24th. And back in P25 tonight is Jose Gonzalez.
Brian Priest will roll this one off from P number 26th. Jason Miller 27th. Joey Katina 28th. Jonathan Lockhart 29th. And Don Runkle Jr. will round out the top 30.
31st tonight is Alan Alphonse. You've also got Christopher Bell rolling off from 32nd position. Chad Cole is going to be 33rd tonight. Stevie Benson in now looks like it'll be about 34th position or so for him. You've also got Michael Priester right there as well.
Brian Workman, Patrick Colby, Casey Duncan, and James Somke, they will round out the rest of this 39-car field tonight.
And that's a look top to bottom at your starting grid. The field rolls behind the iRacing official pace car, which is going to get downed in this time. And we are going to get racing. And again, these average Joes have plenty of seat time on the iRacing service. So it should be, I think, a pretty fair fight. And this is a real race. Yes, we're on the sim. And yes, it's fun seeing what the pro guys can do up against the average Joes. But this is a race. And these guys are not going to treat it like anything less than that, Randy.
People are going to be aggressive. People are going to race hard. A lot of talented names in this field, both virtual and from the real world. I'm expecting a lot of good racing tonight, and I'm expecting some hard hits throughout as well.
We're happy that you're with us this evening on the Joe Gibbs Racing Facebook page at RaceSpotTV, as we hope you will be all season long. But for the first time ever, the pace car is going to go down and in, and we're going to get set to go racing in the Joe Gibbs Racing Off-Season Action iRacing League for the Rockingham Speedway. The pace car's down, and it's going to be the 48 of Pedro Mega, who's off and away. Green flag we go for lap 1 of 100.
Into turn 1 and 2 they go, and Pedro Mega has an awesome start. Tyler Hudson, who had a bit of wheel spin on the outside, manages to get clear of Denny Hamlin, who cycled into third. But in the mid-pack, there was a big jumble down the front straightaway, and because of that, you got a big breakaway and a big gaggle of cars from about P20 on back.
20th on the back of the fight mid-pack, also fighting on in the side of the top 10. A couple of drivers fighting in a battle for third position. Adam Gilliland to the inside on the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Hamlin wants to keep that top lane in 1 and 2, and the 81 is going to complete a move. So first change for position top 5 tonight as Gilliland finds his way around the 11, and they're fighting behind them as well. Thomas George fighting against Michael Guest, also side by side, but a second and a half off of Vega, who leads this race by a couple of car lengths.
Michael Guest is going to do his best to get clear of Thomas George to move him up into your top 5. He's now going to start reeling in the 11 of Denny Hamlin, but out in front, it's a bit of a 2-car breakaway already. Pedro Mega and Tyler Hudson, 3/10 separates them, and they are a second clear of Adam Gilliland in third. So the 48 and the 01 breaking away early here at Rockingham.
And now we're going to try to see, at least these guys are hoping to find some space. Fighting continues top 10. The fortune to Bobby Terrell, fighting with Thomas George for 6th position. It's the closest battle up to the front of the field that we're seeing right now. And while they are single file for a moment down the back straightaway, aptly named Thunder Alley, not a lot of separation top 10 at the moment. So don't expect this thing to really break out unless we get a good amount of laps in under our belt in green flag conditions. Yes, we're still fighting a lot of side-by-side in the back. I've got my eyes at the top of the scoring pile. Randy, a battle for the race lead may be inbound. Tyler Hudson with the iRacing colors on the board. He's challenging Pedro Mega for the top spot in this one. Mega stole pole from him. It looked like for the longest time Hudson was going to be the best time. Lost it by a couple of hundredths of a second at the last minute. And looks like Mega now under attack.
Hudson is doing a fantastic job, and you mentioned the iRacing colors. You know that this is going to be a lot of bragging rights for Tyler Hudson. He works in the iRacing office. He's an iRacing Peak Game 3 Series champion, so to come away with this one would be nice, and if he throws one away, he'll hear about it at work all day tomorrow through 3 and 4, and onto the front straightaway they come at the end of lap number 6, coming to 7 of 100, and Mega stretched the gap out just a little bit loose for Tyler Hudson that last time through, but you see these guys slowly moving up the racetrack and diamonding off these corners more and more.
Trying to figure out, obviously, how this racetrack's going to work. And another thing that's so good about the iRacing service that really separates itself from any other form of online NASCAR racing is not only the virtual tracks that we talked about, laser scanned, and the quarter-inch precision that you get with that, but also the fact that these are a dynamic track surface. As these cars run on this track, they're going to put rubber down on the track, and they're also going to put heat into the track that's going to move the line around. You might not be able to see it right now at just lap 8, but as this race goes on, you'll see that line get worked in. It'll get darker and darker from guys running on it, and eventually you'll start to see them move up the racetrack.
That is one of these things that these guys are going to be worried about. Rockingham, though, one of those racetracks that can be somewhat interesting in terms of mixed groove racing. That said, Tyler Hudson way up the racetrack entering 1 and 2, and look at the run he's able to get down this back straightaway. A lot of speed for him as he reels in Pedro Mega. Meanwhile, throughout the field, everything's pretty much calmed down. Evan, we saw a lot of side-by-side in the opening few laps, but for the most part, up and down your field, things got themselves single file. Everyone just out and riding at the moment.
We do have that single file. Again, not a whole lot of separation. If you look at 3rd position right now, Adam Gilliland all the way through about 7th, Bobby Terrell. That's 4 or 5 cars barely separated by a second, even though they are in fact single file at the moment. You see the 14 and the 5 actually put it up a challenge right now in a battle for P7. So even though we may not be 2 by 2, doesn't mean that these guys are not fighting throughout the pack. And fighting going on a little bit deeper as well. I'm seeing a battle for 16th and 17th between Jonathan Cadell and Scott Simley. And you've also got the 63 of Brian Cook right on the back bumper, and that one trying to become a part of it. The JGR digital and social media head is in this race tonight, and he's picked up a couple of spots tonight with the Aris colors on board his car.
That he did. Jonathan Goodell, who you just mentioned in that scrap, got up on the high side of the racetrack, which is not where you want to be right now, and he lost a couple of spots. So instead of just losing one, he got freight trained just a little bit there, and that's one of the things that can have happen at this racetrack at Rockingham. You'll see these guys, if they're all by themselves, they'll enter a little bit high, but they'll diamond off really, really late. It's that diamonding off on the exit of 2 and the exit of 4 that's really important to the lap time. If you try to get to the top side and you have a car underneath you, cannot get to the power nearly as early as you'd like, and that inside car generally has a pretty big advantage. If there's a couple more in line, they will basically just drive right past you, and we've seen that a couple times already.
Battle for the race lead still on. Tyler Hudson continuing to try to find a way by. Got to run that time and maybe contact for the race lead. It really wasn't a fight until I think that 48 Omega maybe lost a little bit of speed coming off of the final corner. Hudson tried to dive it down low, and that's why I was just keeping a half eye on it. And all of a sudden, the charge to the inside was met with a block. More fighting going on. How about the 08 machine to Ty Gibbs working up to the pack? Started this race at 11th. He gets +1 now with a move on the one of Malik Ray for P10.
Definitely a good move by him to move himself up into that 10th spot. Now Tony Mong is going to be the next driver that he needs to try to reel in. And, well, he's unfortunately last time through a little bit off the pace of that 92 car, but getting that job done would have lost a little bit of time. So we'll have to wait a couple laps to see what the lap times are going to be like from there. But as you said, pretty much everything amongst the top 10 really even right now. No one really gaining or losing, whatsoever. Adam Gilliland has stretched the gap over Denny Hamlin just a little bit, and Tyler Hudson goes for the lead in turns 1 and 2 to the inside of Pedro Mega, coming off a 2, and that inside line able to carry the momentum, and iRacing World Champion Tyler Hudson takes the race lead on lap number 16.
First lead change, lap 16, the 01 of Tyler Hudson, who started this race in second position, was able to maintain that off for the restart and had been applying the pressure to Pedro Mega. The last couple of laps will now go to the race lead, and the first swap out for that number 1 position so far this evening. And well, we've been following that battle for the race lead, kind of losing track of the fact that those top 2 pulling away from everybody else. 2 seconds back to Adam Gilliland, who runs in third position. So even though Mega lost the race lead there, he and the 01 clearly best cars at a racetrack at the moment. Just behind Gilliland, you've got Denny Hamlin, but he's under attack. Here we go with a fight for P4. Michael Guest has already picked up 2 positions tonight, and he'll make it 3 using the inside of the racetrack. That's the second time tonight Hamlin's lost a spot. He took the outside both times as the passes were being made down low.
It's not been a great race for Denny Hamlin thus far. -2, but Michael Guest loose on the exit of 4. That number 11 FedEx machine has an opportunity, but I think he had to lift out of the throttle and lost the rear end as well. So because of that, he won't be able to take the fight to Michael Guest, and instead going to have to defend from Thomas George through 1 and 2. On the back straightaway they come once again, and Hamlin likely not going to be happy about that. He almost had an opportunity to get that 4 spot back, but because he got a little bit loose as well, Michael Guest able to break away a couple of car lengths, and it seems that that 74 has the speed on the 11. Because of that gap's already getting stretched out here to a few tenths of a second.
And Hamlin, even when he got passed up by Guest, had an opportunity with a big run off at turn number 2 and down to Thunder Alley to maybe try to cross him up and go to the inside. But when we talk about how this racetrack is going to change over the course of 100 laps, and the fact that it is a really good race distance to not be able to just go all out from the start, I'm thinking maybe the 11 not trying to go with those counter punches, just simply to save that race car, and maybe it'll give him the upper hand as this race continues to work on. Still going a lot higher up down in turns 1 and 2. You can see some of that shade, which might need a little bit more grip compared to this end of the racetrack that's got sun on it. All of that part of the iRacing dynamic track system.
Denny got a little bit lucky there coming off 2. He went to the top side with a little bit of trouble behind. Thomas George, I think, caught one of the bumps wrong and got a little bit of wheel hop, skipped up into Justin Fuller, just a little bit of contact there. And that number 20 machine lucky to not get turned up into the wall based on that little mistake. Look for now Justin Fuller to take the run off of corner number 2, down this back straightaway, the end of Thunder Alley into 3 and 4. He wants to try to make that move stick. We also have Patrick Colby getting put a lap down on the inside, but Fuller, can he maintain traction down low? No, he cannot. Thomas George is going to hold on to the spot for now.
I think nothing short of a miracle that those two guys didn't take each other out. You saw the contact as they came off at turn number 4, and some battle scars, I think, ended up on the outside of Thomas George's machine. After all, they're going to get hit again. Contact in turn 3. It was Fuller into the back bumper. A fantastic save by George, but it'll put the 5 machine back up into P6.
Who said that these guys weren't going to come out and fight aggressive here tonight? As some, like you said, maybe being a little bit patient, but some people decided to start throwing punches already. George and Fuller, very aggressive racing. That's contact within about 2 or 3 laps of one another there, and I think lucky to see both of those cars still out there and racing. George likely going to have a toasted set of tires though, so he's not going to be too happy in that number 20 machine. But out in front, Pedro Mega has not let Tyler Hudson skip too far away. The gap opened up to about half a second and is somewhat stabilized there, so maybe not a huge pace differential between those two as these guys are moving up to the middle of the racetrack. You see, we saw these guys in the early runnings down along that white line, but between the asphalt changing as well as the tire changing on these cars, they're moving up the racetrack more and more.
Justin Fuller is your biggest mover in this race. He started in 13th position and has been able to make his way up to P6. So biggest mover, if you're talking about the top half of the field, he has himself at a +7 so far. I think maybe tied with him as well as Steve Gottschalk deeper in the pack, who started 24th and has gone to 17th position. But again, we're talking about a field that looks like 37 cars who took the green flag in this one. That is no easy task to work your way up and through. And towards the front of battle for P5, and it involves the 5 of Fuller sideways. That time at 2, as again trying to get to the inside of Denny
cars in the wall,
Hamlin,
cars in the wall on the 3 and 4 at the end of Thunder Alley. Malik Gray's involved in this one. Who's that down on the inside?
Terrell,
Bobby
14.
Terrell. Bobby Terrell, big incident at the end of the back straightaway. Not sure what exactly happened here. Looks like the 14, just a little bit of wheel hop or something coming down the back straightaway, slammed that outside wall, then back down into the inside guardrail. Getting a replay up on your screens of that now, but that's pretty much end of the night for Bobby Terrell as he was off the racing surface. We will stay green.
Nowhere for Ty Gibbs to go, but he 018 who tagged him, and it was a big hit to the inside wall for Bobby Terrell. That right there is one of the perfect examples of the benefits of racing on a sim as opposed to on the rear world side of things, because you don't need a paycheck to get that car back on a racetrack. He's going to try to reset, maybe get it back in this race. It does open up a spot though with him now out of this thing. Thomas J. George 7th, Ty Gibbs up to P8 as they continue to swap things out. Justin Fuller did eventually win that fight for P5, so he drops Denny Hamlin back into the number 6 position, and the 11 not in the clear yet. The 20 of Thomas J. George closing it on the bumper. You really see they're pushing much higher in the center of 1 and 2 than they were earlier this evening, seeing if that 20 can close it and make it a fight.
Denny Hamlin's been one of those drivers who's moving up the racetrack earlier than everybody else. We've been talking about it all night, but Thomas George trying his best to reel in that number 11 machine. He's running a little bit tighter down on the racetrack, and they're side by side behind. This is Ty Gibbs as well as Tony Monge. This is a battle inside the top 10. That 92 working the top side. Ty Gibbs down along the bottom, and I think we've somewhat seen an inverse happen here, Evan, as we've seen that bottom side be strong, but I think these tires are going away. The top side's getting a little bit better off the corner as they once again into 3 and 4. To the inside goes Ty Gibbs, but doesn't quite have the drive off the corner that you can get off that top side, and because of that, move Tony up into P number 8.
And Tony's had some contact in this race as well, so impressive that the number 92 machine is able to keep up the pace as he does fight in that battle for 8th and 9th position. Gibbs has been a little bit more on the move in comparison to the 92 machine, who only recently picked up a spot after we saw Terrell drop out of this race after wrecking out from in front of him or running inside of the top 5. Even Stefan Marinak's right there. It's really a 3-way battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th position. And again, even though you're not 2 by 2, this is very much a fight at the Rock, and quarter exit has proved to be a difficult both ends of the racetrack, turns 2 and 4, but so far relatively clean race for our 37 starters.
Only a couple cars we've seen tag that inside or outside wall, and a couple cars only with a bunch of damages. Tony continues to fight with Ty Gibbs as they go running into 1 and 2 once again. And see most of these guys moving back down to the bottom. Tony still preferring the top side of 1 and 2. Ty managed to get down on the inside, but once again doesn't have the drive off, and because of that, Stefan Marinak, he's now going to fight the outside of that 018 machine through 3 and 4. Down now, coming into this long curved front straightaway. Let's see if Stefan can run the momentum up top. No, gets a little bit of a wiggle, and because of that, Ty Gibbs able to hold on to the spot for now, but they still remain door to door in a 1 and 2. They're also side by side behind Travis Solenberger and Austin Green. They're fighting for a spot just a couple car lengths behind.
The 22 machine is very familiar with the iRacing service as well. He's representing the JGR guys for this series. He's a professional iRacing NASCAR crew chief, won a championship with your current race leader, NASCAR iRacing Series champion in Tyler Hudson. So fighting going to continue on all throughout this pack. Finally, though, Gibbs clearing Stefan Marinak in the fight for 9th and 10th position. And this is basically how the field is top to bottom. You'll get a group of maybe 4 or 5 cars here or there, and then a couple of drivers separated. We have the biggest gap for the race leader we've seen all night long. Tyler Hudson, since getting there, has stretched away. You can see the intervals at the top of your screen cycling through the entire field, but it is now a 2.8 second advantage for Hudson in first. And Pedro Mega really starting to drop back now. He's only about 7/10 in front of Michael Guest in a P3, who's got his sights set on him.
Pedro, I think, really used up those tires early on that number 48. He's several tenths of a second slower than Hudson every single lap. Hudson, just done a fantastic job maintaining those 4 tires on that machine. Because of that, the pace is still immense. But you're right, Michael Guest, Adam Gilliland lurking behind Pedro Mega here as they go through 3 and 4. Look at the speed that 74 Michael Guest can carry off the corner, and now Pedro is going to have a mere full of an unwanted guest as they go running into 1 and 2. Both cars go to the bottom, slide up the middle just a little bit, and coming off corner number 2, can Michael get a good run to make a move at the end of Thunder Alley? A lot of momentum coming down into corner number 3, but the move isn't on quite yet.
And where does he decide to go? Is he going to go up the inside of the 48, or can he try to get topside? We've seen drivers much more open to working up the racetrack. You see the 74 flashing the nose up there. I think Mega aware of what the 74 was trying to do. Takes the top lot away. Inside is going to be just enough to get the job done. And 2P2 goes in. Caution
Yellow
flag, though, going to fly. First time tonight at lap number 39.
Looking to see where this issue was. 1 and 2. Ty Gibbs was involved in this one. So this is a fight happening inside the top 10. I think this might have been a 3-car incident here. Yes, it was. It started with Ty Gibbs as well as Malik Ray running off into 1 and 2. Those two got hooked together, and then Stefan, nowhere really to go for that 35 machine. He got caught up in it. I think a 4th car tagged as well. Austin Green got a little bit of that as he tried to squeak through in that 04. But first caution of the night coming at about halfway.
It was a big hit for the 018 and the 35 machine. Ty Gibbs backed it into the outside wall, so the caution flag is out. And that's a case where you saw they just barely got into each other on the front straightaway here at Rockingham Speedway. And it's not really, I don't think I'd put it in the category of a tri-oval. They classify it as a D-shaped oval. It's a much more progressive bank and curve, if you will, from turn 4 to turn number 1. But I think those guys just kind of thought they would be moving down the racetrack a little bit to diamond it that slightest bit. At least I'm sure that's what Gibbs was expecting. And then it was the overcorrection. The best view was that onboard with Marinac. Small contact up into the outside wall, and it's going to bring not only the drivers involved down pit road, but everybody as we head down for service. Tyler Hudson in as your race leader, but his 3-second gap is now gone.
And expect 4 tires and fuel for everybody, and seems like Hudson rolling his box just a little bit and actually backing up. I'm not sure what's up with Hudson, but struggling in his pit box. That's going to cost him a lot of time, so I would expect this 01 machine to drop a couple of spots here as everyone takes 4 tires, fills up with fuel, and that number 74 of Michael Guess, he has the lead comfortably, and I think Hudson back 3, 4, I think 3 spots he's dropped here. That's going to be really, really depressing for him because he had this race pretty much under wraps, I think, easily the fastest car on track, and now he finds himself rolling off for this restart, the outside of row number 2, I believe.
Guest up 4, Justin Fuller up 6 positions. You see a lot of the red there. It wasn't only Hudson as well. I think we saw Denny Hamlin lose significant spots on the pit road. I think he also missed his entrance into the pit stalls, and down in turn number 1, those pit stalls are on the inside of bank of quarter number 1, to the point where you're not coming straight in or straight out of the box. You get set up at a little bit of an askew angle, and you had to reposition that car to be within the lines, and it is a tough break, but at the end of the day, a self-inflicted error that put you in a tough spot. Michael Guest did not let this opportunity pass. Not only did he literally just get to P2, Randy, when that caution flying came out, but cleaning it out of the pit box is going to put him to the race lead in this thing.
And he's going to be mighty happy about that. Up 6 spots from where he started from 7th up to P number 1. That's been a fantastic run by Michael through that long, long race. And it's going to be interesting to see here is if we stay green, because we just had that long 40-some-odd lap green flag run. With this tires, with this fuel, they should be able to make it to the end. The tires are going to be mighty, mighty slippery if it does stay green and we go to the end from here. But that said, if we do get another yellow, expect everyone to come down pit lane because of the abrasiveness of this circuit. Just looking at the lap time, let's see what the pace differential was like. Michael Guest, your race leader, fastest time that run at 23.7, and at the end of that, 25.0, so a full 1.5 seconds over a race run. That's a lot of drop off here as lights do go out on that rough safety car. Will be green in 1 mile's time.
Is going to be in the next time around. We'll have 44 laps complete of 100 from the virtual Rockingham Speedway. You're watching the first race of this Joe Gibbs Racing off-season action iRacing League. Going to be competing on Sundays all throughout the NASCAR off-season through our season finale on Sunday, February the 4th. If you're just getting in here with us, we're happy to have you with us on the iRacing service, seeing what some average Joes and sim racing members can do up against some of the professionals. Denny Hamlin was your top starting pro in this race, started 3rd. He has fallen back to Pace car is going to be in this time, though, and let's see if Guest can get away. Justin Fuller is going to be on the outside of road 2. Look for him to make a splash, and if he can work around the likes of the 5 of Fuller or the 48 of Pedro Vega. But the pace car down and in. Green flag once more, and a good jump for the 74 Toyota. Guest clear to turn 1.
That's exactly what he would have wanted. Tyler Hudson able to just squeak by Pedro Mega on the top side, so move him back up into that third spot. They're 3 wide in the midfield. I'm not sure who that was. That was Joey Gattina, Malik Ray, and Michael Priester. Close fighting already towards the tail end of the mid-pack here as they go screaming off into 3 and 4. Back to green flag racing.
We mentioned it at the start. Rockingham is not a very wide track.
In the infield, who is that? I can't actually see.
Cody Bonji, the 92, and
Thomas
the 20, and Thomas George. Yeah, they got together out of 4.
We're going to stay green. This is just likely hard racing coming off of corner number 4. This is exactly what it was in 92, and the 20 just going for the same bit of racetrack, and caution flies.
I was just about to say the key is to get through the opening lap, and Michael Priester is around. Yellow flag off of the restart at lap number 46. He was involved, I believe, in some of that 3 wide that you were talking about right off the get-go, and he had a little bit of assistance in this one. We'll take a second look at it. It looked like Austin Green was tucked up on his bumper at battle for 21st and 22nd position, and a little bit of a nudge. It was very minor contact, but you can't do that at a turn number 2 and not expect that result, and nothing really Priester could have done. Very short apron on the back straightaway as he noses it into the inside safer barrier.
Yeah, I think Priester not going to be too happy about that. This track is so slippery that it makes things mighty difficult, and now that everyone comes cycling through, let's see, we got some interesting decisions being made. A handful of drivers opting to come down onto pit lane, likes of Brian Boris Cook, Denny Hamlin, as well as about half the field decides to come in, half the field decides to stay out, and it's really interesting to me, Evan, because we didn't really have a long run. I don't really think the tires after a 1 or so lap restart are going to be worth it, especially when you're talking about a 50-some-odd lap run to the end.
It was barely a lap and a half. If you're the race leaders, you almost got 2 laps in it before that wreck mid-pack down the back straightaway did come out. I mean, getting fresh tires is going to help you out immediately off of the restart, so the only scenario in which I could see fresh tires on that short of a run being of an advantage is if you're only giving up 2-3 spots to get it, then maybe that very short 1-2 lap advantage that you're going to have could be a benefit, but giving up any more spots than that, not sure that this is going to be the call that you want to take. But average Joes and pros alike all coming down to the pit lane that time under yellow.
Yeah, and it's just one of those situations that like I said, I think if it were me, I would definitely favor the track position here. We've seen all of the issues and a lot of the contact come from the midfield here tonight, so I don't know. I don't like the call, but we'll see if it works out for them. They got to make up a lot of spots on that initial lap, though.
Under this second yellow, we are going to cross the halfway point in tonight's race, so let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world, and in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series with the likes of NASCAR and more. Lap number 49, Michael Guest is your race leader, trailed by Justin Fuller, who runs P2. Tyler Hudson was leading at the moment of the first yellow flag tonight. He's back in 3rd. Pole sitter Pedro Vega in P4. Adam Gilliland rounds out our top 5. Up a couple of spots is Travis Solidberger in 6th. Nick Dames is in 7th spot. Mike Kelly at 8th. Jose Gonzalez in 9th. And Jason K. Miller rounds out through the top 10.
So through the top 20, you have the likes of Joey Gattina, Austin Green, Jonathan Lockhart, Brian Boris Cook, Steven Gostak, Denny Hamlin, definitely one of the drivers that came down pit road there, lost a lot of track position. He's going to be now from inside the top 10 to just inside the top 20. Scott Simley, Ryan Preers, Jonathan Cadell, and Malik Ray round out your top 20. As lights go out on that safety car, will be green here in just a mile's time.
Just around everybody out, 21st is Chris Cabot with Alan Alphonse, Anthony Calatoni, Thomas George, Stefan Baranak through 25th. Tony Bonges, 26th. Patrick Colby, Michael Priester, Brian Wertman, and James Somke, final drivers on the lead lap. To round things out, 31st through 37th is Daughter Uncle Jr., Joe Hudson, Ty Gibbs, Bobby Terrell, Casey Duncan, as well as Christopher Bell, 36th, to DJ O'Rourke in 37th. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety variety of sim racing possibilities online. You can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. So this is right here, gonna mark halfway home, 50 laps down and 50 laps to go from Rockingham Speedway in the Joe Gibbs Racing off-season action iRacing series. And we'll see if Michael Guest can get another good restart. Had it last time, yellow flag held it back. We go green again. A lot of tire spin for the front row. And Tyler Hudson's 01 Toyota challenges from row 2 to fight for P2.
The way that 74 was wheeling it, you'd think he'd be one of those rallycross cars fighting through the dirt, but he manages to maintain traction. Car sideways down the back straightaway, entering Thunder Alley. Big pile up in the middle of the field, 22 upside down. Huge impact down, as it's going to definitely cause a yellow 10, 15, maybe even 20 cars all involved in this one.
That first run so clean for so long, and it was Travis Soliderberger who made the mistake, just couldn't get that car to rotate at a turn number 2, and he got stuck up and out of the groove, hit the outside wall, came down, and there was zero place for the 04 of Austin Green to go. Green was just involved at the incident prior to this one coming out of turn number 2. Green tagged in, and the racetrack was absolutely blocked, and Soliderberger up and over in a whale of a ride on his lid in turn 3.
A lot of notable drivers involved. Denny Hamlin got caught up in that one. Ryan Priest caught up, Joey Katina, Jonathan Lockhart, Austin Green, a lot of drivers, both real world and in the simulated groups here tonight, taken out in that big impact. Easily the biggest impact we've seen here tonight. That was a rough one for sure.
The biggest issue is for, all the drivers behind that. We talked about it especially off of our first restart off of yellow, just how tightly packed everybody was in a place like Rockingham that doesn't offer a lot of real estate. Especially because obviously it's a rough track, but that inside fence is right there as well. There's really no evacuation route to take if the racetrack gets blocked in front of you, and all these onboards were showing it. You went on board with Denny Hamlin just a moment ago. He was right there with the 4. Zero way to avoid that when there's cars spinning down the racetrack in front of you in any circumstance, but especially when it comes moments off of the restart.
And I think someone who's going to be really stressed out here is that 74 Michael Guest, because he did not get the restart that he wanted whatsoever. Tires definitely weren't old, only a lap and a half or so on them, like we said, but still struggled to get the traction down in that number 74 Camry. And I think he's likely maybe feeling a little bit lucky that he gets away here, but at the same time, now that Tyler Hudson, because of what's happened here, Tyler's been able to pick up a couple spots for free on these restarts, and Michael's gone from having the fastest car, being 2 or 3 cars behind, but now being right on his rear bumper once we go back to green flag racing. That 74 happy to be leading, but maybe not happy with the context now, as we're past halfway and only about 45 some odd laps to go when we go green.
Something that drivers don't have to worry about in this race, unlike, what we typically see with the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series and the JGR drivers typically on Sundays, is the fact that they're racing through stages and such. We really don't have to be concerned about that, so it is really just a 100-lap stint start to finish. But I'm actually interested in the fact that this race kind of working backwards and contrary to what we would expect to see. Typically, you see, this group of yellows right off of the start, just simply because of the fact that, you got guys who maybe out-qualify what their car can do on a long green flag run with the 2-lap qualifying that we had earlier tonight. And it's typically that first stint where we kind of balance things out. You get guys moving forward, you get guys moving backwards until they kind of find where they belong in line on speed, and it's the middle portion of the race where you see the green flag stretch. Interestingly enough, in this one, been almost a full fuel run there at the beginning without incident, and now 3 yellows in that same amount of time in the middle of the race, which isn't what we typically see.
I think it's one of those situations where everyone just wanted to get started in this motor race cleanly, and as that run went on, people got more and more comfortable with what they had underneath them, and once that we got that first yellow, stacked everyone up, people wanted to start picking up positions, started pushing a little bit harder. So I think everyone, toward the tail end of that long run, and then here at the beginning of these 2 quick yellows we've gotten, I think they were wanting to push a lot harder than they were earlier, and let's see if maybe they tone it back just a little bit so we can get some green flag running here tonight in the second half of the motor race.
His car going to drop down again. Michael Guest would really like to not go through what happened last time. The first restart off of the pit stops, he was exceptional to turn one. That one, you saw a lot of tire spin, trying to get that car up to speed. It allowed Tyler Hudson to come into the picture. He's now outside of the front row. Justin Fuller right there, the number 5 car inside of row 2 and 3rd. Pedro Megapulse are outside in 4th. We'll see what happens this time. A little bit of wheel spin, but a better start as Michael Guest gets us back underway. That number now 56 in the works. Hudson safely down to P2.
Pedro Mega getting isolated on the top side. I think he's going to drop outside of the top 5 here as we come down Thunder Alley. Mike Kelly looks to the inside of Pedro as they go running into 3 and 4 on the new tires we've seen tonight. That inside groove has been where you want to be. Down that front straightaway they go as Tyler Hudson continues to fight with Michael Guest for the race lead. Hasn't been able to get the job done just yet, but through 1 and 2, Tyler isolates that 74 to the top side of the racetrack. Down Thunder Alley they come for the 57th time, and will Tyler Hudson be able to take the race lead for the 2nd time tonight?
Down on that yellow line, it's going to be more difficult for him to get some speed off of the corner, but gas too high. He's got to roll out of the throttle, and Tyler Hudson back to the race lead at lap number 58, and it is not done yet for gas. Here comes Justin Fuller. He'll go 3rd to 2nd as well.
Fuller picks up that spot, and I have to say Michael Guest did a good job getting that car where he is, almost 3 wide, a little bit further back. Ryan Preece, Patrick Colby, Jonathan Cadell, and Malik Gray, they almost went 4 wide, in fact, and they went into 3, but they sorted it out 2 by 2. Still a lot of fighting here amongst the top 5. Tony Monge throws a big move on Scott Sinley. That's inside the top 10, but they come now down Thunder Alley once again. Tyler Hudson maintains the race lead, but Justin Fuller is right on his bumper, keeping him honest, and Hudson a little bit wide through 3 and 4. Fuller able to close, but gets the run down onto the front straightaway, so advantage Hudson for now.
Fuller's been working up towards the front of the field all night long. Started in 13th position, runs 2nd at the moment, but he can't just simply set his sights up front. He's got a lot going on in the rear view mirror. He just passed up Guest for that position. The 74, though, kind of has his feet back underneath him, if you will, and he's keeping it right there. Only a car length and a half off, and maybe in a position to try to challenge and get that spot back. You've got Adam Gilliland there as well. The 2 of Mike Kelly. First time he's really been into the mix tonight. Got 18th to 5th, and just behind them, Jason Miller, 27th to 7th. In the 23 Toyota. So we're starting to see a lot of guys for the back of the pack now make a splash.
That's one of the things that's going to happen over this motor race. Jose Gonzalez as well, 25th up to 9th. So handful of cars that started outside of the top 20 currently running in that top 10 and knocking on the door of a top 5. But your race lead still held by Tyler Hudson. And we're seeing him opt to the top side of the racetrack early here. Everyone else trying to keep it pinned down to that yellow line. But as you see, they run through 3 and 4. Hudson's about a car width or 2 up the racetrack. Dimes it off somewhat, but doesn't ever really get to the bottom. Because of that, I think that's what's enabling him to take so good care of those tires, which is what we saw on that long first green flag run when he opened up nearly a 3-second lead before we got to that yellow.
Now starting to see this one stretch out a little bit inside of 40 laps to go. From the Rock, side-by-side top 10 battle. Stefan Baranek at number 35. He gets one from Jason Miller. So does the 92 of Tony Monge. So does the 26 maybe of Jose Gonzalez. That shows you mess up 1 quarter exit, and the Hornet's Nest will jump on top of you. And the 23 machine now trying to shut the floodgates on the inside lane.
A lot of fighting still happening up and down your field, but Miller, you're absolutely right. Got 2 cars in his mirror he's trying to watch. One goes to the bottom, one goes to the top. The 68, though, of Simley tries to get the drive down low, but not quite able to do so. But on the top side, Nick Thames, he gets a good run, and he might be able to make it 2 for 1 into 1 and 2. Side by side goes the 83 on the top side, and he carries a lot of momentum up there, but Jason Miller able to pick up the run. But 83, though, still strong on the top side, and he's going to make it 2 in 1 lap, I believe, as he pushes a little high into 3 and 4, but what a move by Nick Thames to put himself into the top 10.
And a 68 mission to Simley, who would try to make that very same move at the inside, has also gone up top, but it looks like as well will the 10 of Chris Gabot. So everybody wants to go up top. We've had issues back in the pack with the 52. Patrick Colby is slow at a turn number 4. That car spun on its own down into the grass. No caution, and we will stay green as fighting continues throughout the field.
Oh, that wasn't quite on his own. He had a little bit of help from Jonathan Cadell. Still, like you said, spinning down on the infield grass, did not hit anything, and he was off the racing surface. So we will stay green here. Tyler Hudson, though, out to about a half-second or so lead, and he stretched a big gap over the likes of Justin Fuller, Michael Guest, Adam Gilliland, and Mike Kelly. We're already watching that 01 machine checkout.
Gap for the race lead between Hudson and Fuller at half a second. Guest slowly starting to drop off for the back of Fuller for the first time on this run. And you have to wonder, we obviously see these guys turning up a notch on these restarts. It's clearly your best opportunity to try to make some passes, work throughout the field. And we got to the point right now, though, with the separation a little bit too much for somebody to make up a gap like that in a battle for the race lead. This run to the end, yes, it feels like we're getting down to crunch time, and yes, we are. Next time by, 31 laps to go, but that is not a short run. You still have to conserve tires. You go all out now, not going to be anything left by the time you get to 10 to go when it matters the most.
That's one of the things that's so difficult, I think, if you're someone like Fuller or Guest, is what do you do trying to manage that gap to Tyler Hudson? Because if you let Hudson just run out there, you know that he's going to manage his tires, better than anyone else. Meanwhile, the fight, though, is on. 4P number 2, Justin Fuller and Michael Guest. They were side by side for a moment as they come on to Thunder Alley. But if you let that 01 machine sit out there, he's simply just going to outlast you on this tire life. But at the same point, if you try to push with him, you're going to use up your stuff quicker. I don't know, I think this is a really, really tough situation for all these drivers, and really the lead that Hudson has right now, I think everyone pretty much needs a caution to be able to reel him in, because I think he's going to be able to just outlast everyone through this last 30 laps of this event.
Yeah, he's only increasing the margin last time by for Hudson to 24.187 compared to the 24.242 for Justin Fuller, who runs in the number 2 position. So if no one's catching him, you're doing a pretty good job. And in fact, not only is nobody gaining on him, but he is continuing to stretch into final home stretch in this race. One thing that we really didn't see earlier on in that was thick lap traffic, and I'm not sure it's going to become a factor in this one still, with only about 28 laps to go. Catch up to the back of the field where you've got, I think, still 29 cars total being scored on the lead lap. To have some fun, and though going on a little bit more back in the pack amongst the 23 Machine Miller and the 8 Ryan Priest for 14th and 15th position. Priest has had a rough night. That car's pretty torn up after getting caught on, I think, that accident off of the restart in turn number 2. Car's still ticking, though, still racing out there. Going to be tough for him to hold off Thomas George, who goes to the inside of him.
An 8 machine on the top side. Can he maintain the momentum up top? No, he can't. He gets a decent run, but not good enough. And Thomas George should be able to get the job done as they get rolling off into corner number 1, and indeed he does. So move Thomas up into that 15th spot. Next driver in line will be that 23 of Jason Miller, someone we've watched quite a bit tonight of, and seems that number 23 machine keeps just finding some way somehow to get himself involved in these fights and end up in the interesting places out there on the racetrack.
Seems to be the way it is. Either, you show up and you have a good evening, you end up catching the brakes and you can put yourself in a good position, or it's just not your evening. We've seen plenty of drivers on both ends of that spectrum. About 4 or 5 cars, I think, retired from this race. 29 of 37 who started still on the lead lap. A couple of drivers still running just a handful of laps down, the likes of Joe Hudson, Don Runkle, Ty Gibbs, some of the guys who have found themselves in trouble throughout the evening. I can't seem to take my eyes, though, off of the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th. I'm trying to scan through the pack, keep an eye on everybody, but these guys just will not leave each other alone. Gilliland, Kelly, and Mega still on top of each other. Those 3 drivers separated the last time by a mere 0.3 of a second.
They're very close, and I think they're just sort of managing this. They may realize that they're not going to catch a race leader, and I think those 3 in particular, because of the tail end of this little scrap toward the tail end of the top 5, they don't want to start fighting amongst each other and lose the back of the likes of Michael Guest and Justin Fuller, who are just barely out there in front of them. A little bit unreachable for now, but if they were to start scrapping, they'd lose enough time to where those 2 would officially be gone and in the distance, I believe. So I think being a little bit patient for now, but because of that, very, very tight as they run down Thunder Alley once again. But eventually those guys are going to start getting aggressive when they need coming up here shortly on 20 some odd laps to go. When do the gloves do you think start coming off, Evan?
You're on top of each other now. I think that any longer that you wait, you're only going to give somebody an opportunity to get by. I think it's the same mentality that these guys have off of a restart. If someone's close to you, you're going to have to go for it. And it's easy for us to sit up here from our perch in a box and say, take it easy, save the tires, get through. If this continues to go green through the end, what would it be? Just a little bit less than a 40-lap green flag run to the end of the race. When somebody's right in front of you and you're on their bumper, you're not really thinking, you know what? I'll just wait and get back to them in 15 or 20 laps. You want to go because if we don't have another restart, this ends up being the last run of this race. You may not get another opportunity to get back to somebody's bumper like that, so I think you almost have to go for it.
You mentioned lap traffic, and Don Runkle Jr., he gets to the bottom side. I thought he was going to be a little bit more of a factor to the likes of Gilliland and Kelly, the 26 and the 1. They're also fighting this. Jose Gonzalez and Malik Gray. Malik just picked up that spot to put himself in the top 10, and he's really wide at 1 and 2, but he diamonds off the corner nicely as he comes now down onto that back straightaway. Malik now comfortably in the top 10. I think Jose Gonzalez, a little bit of damage, and I think it's affecting him more than the damage we see on that number 1 machine. Nick Thames is going to be the next driver that Malik is going to try to have to reel in.
And Ray has had a little bit of an up and down night. Started 10th, fell back a little bit, now back exactly where he started. And don't let that one position backwards, hinder the night that Jose Gonzalez has had. He started in 25th position and has been able to work his way up to 11th. That makes him one of, if not the biggest mover on the night at plus 14 positions as they run right now. Race leader, though, now having to deal with that lap traffic. I wasn't certain that Tyler Hudson would really get to the back of the pack, but right there working around the 52 of Patrick Colby, last car on the lead lap in P26 will now go a lap down, and Tyler Hudson's got to kind of wake up and focus on these guys. Almost got himself in a tricky situation with that last car.
Does have a nice little buffer though to P number 2 of Justin Fuller, 1.7 seconds, and there's 2 lap cars between them. That said, the 01 machine off of 2, little bit loose, so maybe not taking as good of care of the tires as he did on that first long green flag run. Next lap car that Hudson will have to deal with will be the 11 of Denny Hamlin. They come now down the front straightaway. You can see the pace differential. That 11 car mighty beat up as they go running down into corners number 1 and 2. To the inside goes your race leader, and Denny, of course, not going to fight that whatsoever. So Tyler doing a good job with this lap traffic as we're coming up on 15 to go.
Closing in on the end of this one, do we see a caution flag late, or is this one going to stay green through the end of it? Not only is Hudson dealing with the lap traffic, but obviously everybody else is going to have to deal with it, so it's a give and take for the 01. You got a 1.6 second gap over Fuller in second position. Do you work that gap to take it easy to get around somebody? Obviously, those guys from second on back are going to be a little bit more aggressive working around the lap traffic, trying to make up some time, and it's not going to matter. We got a caution, and it's the 16 of Hudson, sideways in the middle of the racetrack in 3 and 4.
And the 01 of Hudson got a little bit of a piece of that. The 11 machine of Denny Hamlin, hot into 3 and 4, ran right into the rear of your race leader. So, going to be getting a replay of that, and that has to be question marks on what sort of damage does that 01 machine have, as we're likely going to be inside 10 laps to go when we go back to green.
Yeah, just to clarify, this 16, the one who went around was Joe Hudson in 29th position. He got turned by the 04 of Austin Green, third time tonight. The 04 has been in an incident, so that was the Hudson that spun. And then the other Hudson we're talking about, Tyler Hudson, your race leader, got hit in the back end after Denny Hamlin, through the smoke, locked up the tires, getting on the brakes, and slid into the back of him. But we're going to come down pit road. Last time, Tyler Hudson let us down, Randy. Didn't get into the box cleanly, lost 4 positions. This is the money stop, and it also leaves guys with an opportunity with restart due up with 10 or less laps to go to maybe not go 4 tires and make a strategy play.
You definitely go for 2 here and possibly make it work. I think you might need a caution to just aid you a little bit to get that run a little bit shorter, but 2 tires definitely in the playbook potentially. Tyler Hudson in the box clean, which is what he needed, and as he was rolling down pit lane, the alignment on that 01 machine looked all right. Doesn't look like it's too bent from that impact, but we'll have to see when he goes green flag racing. He rolls off after taking 4 tires, and he should maintain the race lead here over Justin Fuller. A little bit of contact between a couple guys fighting for the top 5 as they come off. I think that was Adam Gilliland who almost went around exiting pit road.
That's about just as good as a result you can get from Hudson. Nobody plays you out on the two-tire call. You're clean into your box this time, and I'm sure, you know, for Tyler Hudson to be a NASCAR iRacing champion, an iRacing employee, he's been in many of these pressure situations in his life, but you have to feel like you maybe second-guess yourself a little bit when you come down pit road after making a mistake. Maybe you know, take it a lot more easy to not make a mistake, and that hurts you. But Hudson in and off will be the first driver in and out of pit road. You'll see a couple of cars right now between he and the pace car. These are drivers looking for a wave by. It looks like the 89 machine of Brian Wertman is going to stay out, go from 4 laps down to 3 laps down, and James Somke will stay out to go from 1 lap down and get back to the lead lap, which would put us with 26 cars on the lead lap for what may just be the final restart on the night due up. So you're not getting a tire advantage on Tyler Hudson, but you again erase that 1.5, 2 second advantage, Randy, that he had built up. So Fuller, Mega, Gilliland, Kelly, top 5, all right back in this thing.
And remember that those guys 2nd through 6th, they were all running amongst one another, and they were being very, very patient about how they were running. Now, inside of 10 laps to go, when we go back to green flag racing, likely the final restart of the night, this is where patience pretty much goes out the window. If a door looks open, you're going to try to step through it any way you can. So if you're that 01 machine of Tyler Hudson, very, very stressful situation. But if you're Fuller, Mega, Gilliland, Kelly, Monge, Ray, Marinac, if you see an open door, you need to step through it right here, and I would not be surprised to see another bit of issues before we end up finishing this one.
It all comes down to just how many laps we're going to have to do it. The lights out on top of the pace car, which means that we are going to come this time by to take lap number 91, and it will be a 10-lap to go shootout from the Rockingham Speedway. Should also note that this race is 100 laps, no more and no less. Not going to have an opportunity. There is no overtime, no green-white checker, just as it used to be when they were racing back at Rockingham. This race will end under yellow if we get a yellow on the service due to the time it takes to get through a caution flag cycle with 4 laps to go or less. If a yellow comes out in that window, this race will end under caution. So, still a window to go back green on this one. Can we race it out to the end? Tyler Hudson hoping to come out on top. Needs another spectacular restart. The pace car going to dive down this time at quarter number 4. Hudson and Fuller side by side on the front row. 10 laps from a checkered flag at the Rock, and we go back green. Good job for the 01. Fuller wants to get the P2. Watch out for Meg on the inside challenging.
Pedro gets down to the bottom and a little contact for second, but they're going to be clean, and they come now down Thunder Rally. Exactly what Tyler Hudson would have wanted to see in his mirror. He gets a better restart than the drivers behind him, and those two started fighting as they came off of 2. That would have held up Justin Fuller, but caution flies. We will get a restart from here.
Somebody's up into the wall down in turn number 3. I saw a lot of smoke. And the yellow flag is out. I think it was the 6 car who went around, and Jonathan Lockhart. It was a battle for 24th. We'll get a replay of this one up in just a minute. 3 wide gone a little bit awry. The 6 made the dive down into the quarter. I don't think he saw the 018 there. And when he made that move to the middle lane, there's nowhere Ty Gibbs could go, and the 6 comes down across his nose. They did eventually straighten those cars out, but I believe that's where the yellow came from, just because they were so sideways in the quarter that the yellow flag did fly for that incident.
And for those who are unaware, it is automated flags here on the iRacing service, and basically the big difference maker is whether or not you are on the racing surface. So if you're below that yellow line, you can potentially come to a complete stop, and the yellow will not fly. But if you're anywhere on that racing surface, whether it's just a part of the car or the entirety of the car, when you drop below a certain speed for a long enough period of time, the caution will end up getting thrown. So because of that, you know, that looked like a fairly minor incident compared to some of the ones we've seen tonight. Yellow's going to fly on this one and restack the field. And Hudson, he got that good start, saw them fighting in the rearview mirror, which you would have wanted, and now that all gets erased, and he has to hope it happens once again.
And in theory, if Tyler Hudson can get another good jump on the restart, then the yellow would be a benefit to him, because we'll go back green with about 5 or less laps to go. And if he can get a good jump, it gives the guys behind him that many less opportunities to try to do something with him. But if he doesn't get a good restart, Well, then you just never wanted that to happen either. He was in a great position because we saw Justin Fuller get a good restart, but it wasn't a spectacular restart. He was P2, and then it was at 40 to Pedro Mega, who made the charge for the inside of row 2 up into that fight for second. Maybe very minor contact in the center of the quarter between Fuller and Omega, and they were fighting for P2. Hudson was loving that, because if they're fighting for second and third, they're not fighting for the race leader, and it was going to allow him to pull away. So that was almost a picture-perfect scenario for Tyler Hudson that now is completely gone, and we'll have to go through the motions again. Another thing is that when the pace car dives down, it's a very short window between then and the drop of the American Ethanol green flag for him to restart this race. If him having to obviously go through the motions again maybe tips these guys off to the kind of strategies he's implemented on restarts.
Yeah, it is, you know, there's, for those who've never run on the iRacing service, there is a little bit of playtime. You don't have a restart box, so to speak, but basically the window for when you can go is essentially from when that pace car peels off of pit road to when that green flag flies. So once that safety car comes onto pit lane, your race leader actually is the one who controls the field, and he basically needs to go sometime before that green flag flies, because that's where you get an advantage, and it almost ends up being like a bit of a drag race, and it all depends on if that guy on the outside can get a good reaction and maintain that side-by-side or come as near as he possibly can to maintaining any overlap to how close that race will be once they come all the way back through and around. It's a big gap oftentimes that if you can play that game well as the race leader, you get a good advantage, and that's decided many a race here, and I think we might just see that decide another one tonight.
And we're hoping for an exciting finish to this one. There's a lot of folks behind the scenes who are making this race possible tonight. Of course, shout-outs to our friends at Aris High-Speed Modems. Not only do the drivers need the wheels and the pedals and the computers to be able to get in this race tonight, but obviously they need high-speed internet connection, and Aris High-Speed Modems are the best out there. A shout-out to our friends at Sim500 for organizing and hosting this series, harpoondesign.com for giving our drivers their paint schemes tonight, and of course everybody at Joe Gibbs Racing for putting this one together. Let's see if it lives up to it. Pace car going to go down this time. It'll be a 5-lap left to go restart for the Rockingham Speedway. Tyler Hudson and Pedro Mega on the front row look to fight amongst themselves, but does somebody from third on the back jump into the picture with one last go at it? American Ethanol green flag, back off and away. The top two with a good jump.
It's a very good jump from Justin Fuller. That's what he needed, but they're going to be 3 wide behind. I think that's Malik Gray making that big move. He got an awesome restart, went down to the apron to go up the inside of that 2 machine. Fuller, though, filling the 01 machine's rear view mirror as they roll through 3 and 4. Going to be 4 laps to go at the straight, and Hudson did not get the clear restart he would have wanted here this time.
A lot of side-by-side, back-to-back with 26 cars at the lead lap, inside of 4 to go. If a caution comes out, this race is over. So if you're Justin Fuller, there is no sitting back. You got to make up a car length. You're on the bumper of Hudson, but right now, not close enough in 3 and 4.
Of course, no lap traffic is going to hold up that 01 machine, so Fuller somehow, some way has to find a way to do it on pace to get by. Caution's going to fly, though. 2 machine around on the front straightaway. The 01 machine's going to win it. There's another big pile-up coming into 1.
And it was Mike Kelly in that too. As you mentioned, it was funny for P9, and it was another self-inflicted error that leads to all of the issues off of the restart. We saw this a couple of restarts ago in turn 2. Driver into the outside wall, down in front of the field, and Mike Kelly was digging a little bit too hard, trying to go for P6. Malik Ray drove himself into the outside wall, and then when he snapped it back up the hill, bounced off of that outside wall right in front. The 63 machine of, Brian Boris cooking over for him to go. The 20 machine of Thomas J. George, no way around it, and a single car issue, just trying to get a little bit too much out of it. And the closing laps of this thing are going to end it under yellow, and Tyler Hudson to collect the pace car at 2 laps to go.
Hudson's going to be loving that, but I think that Justin Fuller, even though he's happy, had a nice green run with that 01 machine, did some good hard fighting there coming in the last handful of laps. He's going to be a little bit sad about that one. I think he could have potentially found somehow, some way to make a move on that 01 machine, maybe use the bumper a little bit, move him up out of the way. I don't think he would have wrecked Hudson by any means, but I think things were going to get very, very physical when we got the popsicle sticks. But white flag in the air, 1 more lap around here under yellow, and it'll be official that 01's taking this one away.
It'll be at a slow to pace, which I'm sure Tyler Hudson has no complaints about. Everybody else behind him, Fuller, Mega, Gill, and Monge, even if they weren't right there, I'm sure are saying to themselves, you know, if I could have just got those 2-3 extra laps, we might have been able to do something with him. At the moment of yellow, Fuller was there in the battle for the race lead, but I'm not sure he was going to be able to catch Hudson. Hudson was just so good off of the quarter every single time that by the time they got to quarter entry the next time by on a straightaway, Fuller just wasn't within striking distance of being able to get to the back bumper to that car in front of him. And again, it's a great result for him at P2. Fuller technically going to be the highest finishing driver of the average Joes, as the iRacing champion and employee Tyler Hudson representing the JGR group for this series. He'll come off at the final quarter, though, and take the checkered flag. First winner in the Joe Gibbs Racing Offseason Action League is Tyler Hudson from Rockingham.
What a run it was for that 01 machine. As the rest of the field is going to cycle through, you see a number of drivers who'll go by on the outside, maybe scraping and bump that 01 machine a little bit. And I think one thing we need to mention here, Evan, this is round number 1. We're not only going to different tracks, but also some different cars are going to be used tonight. Going to be seeing, or not tonight, but over the course of this championship, going to be seeing the trucks a couple times. We out next week at Lucas Oil, and then most notably at Eldora, we'll be having a winter shootout in the dirt in the trucks. That's going to be a really, really good one.
And if you just joined us late, we have 7 more of these coming up between now and the Daytona 500, so we have your racing fix covered throughout the offseason. As noted, we'll be back next Sunday night for the Lucas Oil Raceway. On Wednesday, January the 3rd, a special event from Eldora Speedway. Sunday, January 7th from Circuit of the Americas. January the 14th at Bristol. The 21st at Dover. The 28th at Homestead. And it all wraps up Sunday, February the 4th at the Talladega Superspeedway. All of those races can be viewed live as they were tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern Time right here on the Joe Gibbs Racing Facebook page. But burning it down on the front straightaway is Tyler Hudson, your race winner tonight. Started this one in P2, did a lot of chasing of the 48 of Pedro Vega early in this one, but when he got out front, even with that mistake he made on pit road, was just too good to be denied.
You know, this likely has to feel good for Tyler. It's been a while since he's gotten a big victory in one of these broadcasted races. Of course, NASCAR PKM Free Series champion, and he ended up getting a gig at iRacing, so he's been behind the scenes as one of the stewards for that. And this likely, like I said, has to be a nice feeling for him to take away the win here, especially knowing that no one in the iRacing offices will get to rib on him too much for potentially throwing one away.
One of the fun things about Rockingham is he parked it in victory lane right there on the front straightaway. That does it. Let's take a look top to bottom at tonight's full race results for tonight's JGR 100 presented by Sim 500. Tyler D. Hudson takes home the checkered flag tonight with the win. After starting up front, he secures the checkered flag this evening. Justin Fuller, hard-fought P2. Pedro Mega, your pole sitter, ends up in 3rd position with Adam Gilliland in 4th, and Tony Bonge to round out the top 5. Malik Ray comes home in 6th position this evening. Stefan Marinac is 7th with Nick Thames in 8th. Jose Gonzalez 9th, and Chris Cabot rounding out your top 10.
11th spot, you have Scott Simley, Brian Boris Cook in 12th, Thomas George 5th to 13th, unfortunate for him, Jason Miller in 14th, Jonathan Goodell 15th, Steve Goschalk 16th, Anthony Cataloni 17th, Joey Katina 18th, 19th Michael Guest, and Patrick Colby runs out the top 20.
21st position tonight to Alan Alphonse in 21st. You got Michael Priester back 22nd. James Somke 23rd. Jonathan Lockhart 24th. And Austin Green 25th position. The final driver on the lead lap in this one is the 11th Denny Hamlin. Started up front, raced up front for a lot of it, got caught up in an accident, toughed it out just to get a result this evening. It rounds out the lead lap cars. 27th, 2 laps down for Brian Wortman. You got Mike Kelly in 28th position. Joe Hudson 29th. And Daughter Uncle Jr. in 30th.
Rounding out the field tonight, Ty Gibbs in 31st, Ryan Priest 32nd, Travis Sullenberger 33rd, Bobby Terrell 34th, Casey Duncan 35th, 36th is Christopher Bell, EJ O'Rourke 37th, and 2 drivers did not take the green tonight, Chad Cole and Stevie Minson.
Look top to bottom at your full race results tonight for the Rockingham Speedway. Let's go trackside, though, and get word with tonight's race winner, Tyler Hudson, who started this evening in second position, and he comes out on top, but it's all said and done. We're down with the driver of the 01 machine. Tyler, you got us?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Hey, congratulations on the win. It's been a while since we've had an opportunity to chat with you in your new role with the folks at iRacing, but obviously you were a past iRacing Oval World Champion. You know how to do this kind of a thing, and we're competitive all night. You fought a lot early on with Pedro Vega, had a couple of late race restarts with the likes of Justin Fuller right on top of you, but when it was all said and done, just a little bit too quick to catch.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. You know, it took a little bit to get by Pedro there. He was pretty quick out of the gate. So when the tires wore out, I had to move my line around a little bit. Went to the middle to the top lane and just kind of stuck there, and it was really, really fast. But there at the end, I felt like I had to run the bottom, but you know, to hold those guys off. But I did not like the bottom. The car, I just wasn't comfortable with the car running the bottom. But it worked out in the end. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate all the guys that put this lead together. Brian, Cook, JGR, Sim 500, all those guys in iRacing, and you guys for the broadcast.
Rockingham is a fun choice, I think, for the first race of this. The fastest ever lap here in a NASCAR Cup car was a 23.167. That was Rusty Wallace back in 2000. So even though you guys didn't get pole, you still were a 10th quicker than the fastest lap here ever. And that's because obviously in these Gen 6 cars, not something that was ever raced here in NASCAR competition. So what was it like out there with everybody in the 2018 Toyota Camry going side by side with, at the start of this thing, what was nearly 40 cars on track at once?
Yeah, I mean, Rockingham has a ton of character, as everybody knows that knows motorsports and racing, and it's the same way in the sim. A lot of bumps. It's really bumpy. It's not a lot of grip out there. We had a little bit of help with the weather conditions. Made the track a little cooler, which gave us a little more grip. But yeah, I mean, the track's really slick and bumpy, and you know, I just try to. Running the bottom is tough because you got to keep the car pinched down. The corner coming off of 2 is really tight, and the wall wants to jump out and hit you. But if you can diamond the corner and get a straight run off the corner, it works out. I'm sure the guys had the same. They fight the same thing when they raced here in real life. So it's pretty cool that we get to experience that on iRacing.
And I don't want to pull you too much out of the driver's seat, but from the iRacing standpoint of things, to get this series together, which is going to go on for 7 more events between now and the beginning of February with the folks over at Joe Gibbs Racing and everybody at Sim 500 for making this possible. We've seen a lot more of the guys on the real world side of things in NASCAR's top ranks on the sim recently with the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational over the course of the regular year, and of course for this in the offseason. We always hear people talking about iRacing as a tool, but I think it's pretty a lot of fun, at least for us, to see them on track for these events, and I'm sure it means a lot for you guys at the office.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all of us that sim race know how you know how this stuff relates to the real thing, and to be able to see actual cup teams and just you know, people high up in the motorsports industry coming to that realization here lately has it's really cool, and it's really cool to see. And it, you know, there's a lot of sim racers doing a lot of great things because of sim racing. And I mean, I was able to do a lot of cool things because of sim racing. So it's a legitimate form of racing. It's just another form of racing. So anytime as that continues to grow, it's you know, good for all of us sim racers for sure.
We'll let you take off. When you were fighting for the race lead there, Randy, you noted that if you blow this one, the guys at the office will be beating up on you tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about that. So we'll let you get off and get a good night's sleep, Tyler. Before we do, anybody want to say hi to?
Well, yeah, I thought I had a pretty good shot to win there. Then when that caution came out, Denny was a little late on the brake pedal and ran into the back of me, and I was like, oh no, I'm not going to hear the end of this. So yeah, I was happy to finish that off. But yeah, thanks to you guys, RaceSpot, like I said, and Sim 500 and Joe Gibbs Racing, Brian Cook, One Up Motorsports, all those guys that put this together, iRacing.com. Everybody go over there and check it out, and you can do this stuff from your home as well. And we'll catch you guys later.
Race winner tonight from Rockingham, Tyler Hudson. Tyler, we appreciate the time. Congratulations, and hopefully we'll catch you up with the next Sunday.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Coming home second tonight on the other end of that exciting battle towards the end of this one was Justin Fuller, who comes home in second position. Trackside with him is Randy.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Justin Fuller. Justin, inside of 10 laps to go, we got a couple of late cautions. First thing I want to ask is, how relieved were you when we got that second caution in that period? Because Tyler Hudson, he basically treed all of you and got out to an early several tenth of a second lead. Luckily, as I said, that was erased by a quick yellow. Did you think your race was over at that point, or how are you feeling inside that 5 machine?
Honestly, we had a terrible qualifying lap. We started 13th. Not really good at this track. Don't really like it. But I felt like we should have qualified better than that. Anyway, but we moved up to the field pretty quickly, and Tyler was gone. And initially, that first caution after that first long run, we were closing in on green flag pit stops at that point, and I was happy the caution came out because it got us all bunched up back together, and I was able to get a really good pit stop and get to second. That second to last caution kind of burned me a little bit. I'm not really good on long runs, but it worked out in the end. I guess I was the best of the rest of the non-VIP people that showed up to race tonight.
Talking about that, you rolling off from 13th on the grid, you said you likely should have qualified better. But from where you started, you sort of got to drive through a lot of people, got through some of the VIP real-world drivers, as well as some of the big-name sim racing guys, and a lot of the more regular-name people that maybe don't come with the notoriety of some of the drivers in this championship. And running through the field like that, how was it for you? Did you notice anything that some of the drivers were doing different? Did the real guys do something, race differently from the sim guys, maybe vice versa? And were the average Joes an interesting thing to go through as well?
I think the only actual big time real world driver that I drove up behind was Denny Hamlin, and I got to him within a couple laps, and he just pulled over and let me go, so I didn't really learn anything from him. I don't know if maybe he was trying to learn from me. I have no idea, because then he started running my line once I got by him, and he kind of leveled off. But I noticed a lot of the sim guys that were ahead of me, Adam Gilliland and Michael Guest. Mikey definitely started running the top, and I was like, hey, that looks like it's working for him, so I moved up, and that's the best part about this. iRacing for years only had, it was only single groove racing. Now we got multiple grooves, and with long races like this, the track widens out, and it makes it a lot of fun.
Now, talking about this schedule, Justin, we saw the Monster Energy Cup car tonight, but we're going to see a bit of everything over the course of this. We're going to see the truck. We're also going to see the B car, the Xfinity car getting run as well, and what are some of the big changes of some of these guys? We saw Hudson run strong tonight. We're also going to see a road course and some dirt action once we go to Coda and Eldora respectfully. What do you have to do mentally to jump between those different cars? I know there's some big aero updates on the sim this last build release. How have those cars how are they different from one another, and how have they changed since the build?
I've been on here long enough. I'm pretty comfortable, I think. I'm really looking forward to the truck at Eldora. I think that plays right into my cards. I really love the truck at Eldora. I love dirt racing to begin with. I'm not really looking forward to the Circuit of the Americas. I have no laps there. I'm honestly surprised that we picked that track instead of Watkins Glen or Sonoma. That's an actual NASCAR track. But other than that, the rest of the schedule I'm really looking forward to. Dover's a really fun track. Bristol's a great track. That'll be a fun race. And then, of course, we got the Demon at the end, Talladega, and that's going to be a crapshoot.
Thanks for joining us, Justin. Congratulations on the P2, but you definitely would have wanted to take home the checkers tonight. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that 5 machine?
First off, I want to thank Sim 500, Joe Gibbs Racing for putting this show on. What an event. This was really fun. I want to thank all the admins at Sim 500, Boris, for putting this. They've been putting a lot into this, and I don't want it to go unnoticed. You guys are putting on the broadcast, always doing a great job. It doesn't really matter which broadcast team it is on iRacing. Anybody that does it does a great job. It gets it out there more. I want to thank everybody at Aftermath Motorsports. Adam Gillen was in the race with me tonight. I got to thank my teammate. And EJ had some problems. He was back there. I don't know what happened to him, but that's about it.
Well, Evan, going to throw it back up to you. You're going to be stood by with third place finisher. That's the 48 of Pedro Mega, pole sitter as well.
Yeah, he was somebody else who was in this thing for the better part of it and tracks out with the driver of the 48 machine, Pedro. Pedro, congratulations on a solid result for you guys, but starting this one out on pole position, snatched it away there from Tyler in the closing minutes at the Q session, and you guys started off great, led for the better part of that opening 30-lap run, and then never really dropped out of the conversation, but couldn't get back those 1 or 2 spots. Talk us through your night.
Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, that was a great race. That was nice lap on the qualifying. That will surprise me. I really don't expect to get on the front, but I had a nice start, clean start, and those cars that was really bad. You know, that was really loose in the beginning, and I just tried to, you know, just put myself in the front. I knew those guys in the long run that will be coming, you know, really fast. Tyler and Justin, and by the end I got a nice position on the pit stop, and then I will give him a 2 position at the end. So, but anyway, that was a great race. That's a really great race.
It looked like fun out there on Rockingham. It's you know, an older track, it's a thinner track, but we had a full field here. I think 39 cars were in it overall, and 37 drivers ended up taking the green flag, and a good mix of the pro drivers that are in this thing, the Joe Gibbs Racing guys that make this series what it is on Sundays, but also for the average Joe's category. Yourself falls into that mix. You guys know a lot about sim racing as well. You've done this a time or two, so just tell us what it's like competing in a series like this and what you guys expect for the rest of the year.
That was a big difference because you feel more responsible in the track. You feel you have to, you know, usually you don't drive like that, and you know, on the official race you put more yourself in position to get a contact to somebody. Now in here, you know, the broadcast on the Joey Gibbs web page, so you feel like you have to try to control yourself a little bit more. You have to be careful. So especially with those guys on the track. So, and the feel, and you know, when you feel against those guys, it make you feel like a real driver, you know. So that was pretty great.
We can't wait to head to the Lucas Oil Raceway next week, and we're also excited for the rest of the season. Pedro, I'm sure the good result for you guys tonight has you guys optimistic for the rest of the year. We'll let you take off. Anybody you want to say hi to, though, while we got you?
Yeah, I want to say thank to you guys. Thank you to Joe to give the opportunity to be here. And I also want to say thank to, I had a lot of spotter with me today. I had Bob Orema, Clayton Lowry, Luis Bezerra, Rafael Hobby, Michael Ramos. I had a ton of friends watching the race, and they was cheering for me. And so I want to say thank you to those guys to be late in here, you know, and watching the race. So yeah, we're gonna go to the next week and see what happening there.
It's anything like this one, I'm sure you guys will be up at the mix. Pedro, best of luck there, and hopefully we'll chat soon.
All right, thank you.
Third place finisher tonight from Rockingham. We do have one more driver standing trackside with us. Randy, I believe you are down with the driver who ends up coming home in this one, just outside of those top couple of spots with everybody else. You're down with Boris.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Brian Boris Cook, the JGR digital and social media head. He's one of the guys who definitely put all this together. And Boris, first thing I want to ask you is, I know you're one of the people who definitely helped in the organizing with this, you know, talking with us and a lot of the other things. How was it to finally see this series get kicked off and have really what was a very, very exciting race from the Rock?
Man, I'm really excited. It was a lot of fun. It was fun to drive. It was fun to watch from the driver's seat, and I'm definitely going to watch the replay of your broadcast. I've been sim racing for almost 20 years, and I wanted to do something like this for a while, and the stars have kind of aligned. Just wanted to thank everybody at JGR and Dave Alpern and Coach Gibbs and everybody that really, you know, gave us the green light to test this, you know, to test the waters and see if it would work. And I'm really excited about this first race. Seemed like a good race. The second groove came in. We had Denny in here. We had Ryan Priest and Christopher Bell and some others. And we've heard from Daniel Suarez and Eric Jones. I think they'll be racing too, and maybe we can even get Kyle Busch in here. Who knows? So I'm super excited about the future. We got ORP, IRP, Indianapolis short track next week that I'm really excited about. The setup is great, and that's a tough little track that people are used to seeing from back in the day. So it was fun for me, and I hope it was fun for everybody else to watch. I really appreciate you guys broadcasting it.
Oh, we definitely appreciate getting the opportunity to broadcast it for sure. And I've sort of asked Fuller the same question. I'm curious your input. You running in the mid-pack, you were sort of around a good mix of everyone. There were some of the iRacing guys that were, much more familiar with the virtual stuff. You had a number of the average drivers, and some of the real-world guys were running around you as well. Did you notice anything that, people from the different sort of criterias, the different, let's say, specificness of the virtual motorsport or even the real-world guys, notice things that people were doing differently compared to their counterparts?
I think it's a pretty level playing field between the average Joes and the real world guys. I was around Priest quite a bit, and then about midway, I made it the top 10, and Denny and I pitted for tires, and I thought we were going to be in great shape, and then that wreck down the backstretch happened, and I tell you what, my car handled better with the damage, so I was hoping we'd go green. But I think these average Joes, they've got something for these drivers as they showed tonight. I think as the real world drivers get a little more used to the seat time, they're just coming off the real world season and back to getting used to this. So I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, Denny was up there all night, and I know the others will come back too. So I know Eric Jones is really good at this. But overall, it was just fun to see everybody out together, and I think it's really cool for people out there to know that you can have a chance to race these guys, and iRacing is kind of like it's the foot in the door to racing. It's not as expensive as getting a real go-kart or getting a real Saturday night stock car. It's very manageable, and it's the real deal. And so that's what I'm most excited about, and I know Joe Gibbs Racing supports that for the future.
Definitely one of the big selling points, being able to race with your heroes. And of course, it's not just the NASCAR side of things. You can have that happen. All sorts of content varying from road course, rallycross just added, and of course, dirt oval stuff added as well. So regardless of the series you like to watch, you can have the opportunity to run with someone like a Swindell or let's say a Kligerman, or I've even run with a 4-time Le Mans winner, Frank Biela. A lot of fun to be had. But Boris, thanks for joining us. Thanks for helping us put this on. But before we let you go, any shout-outs, and who would you like to thank after your good run tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, the folks at JGR, I'd also like to thank Sim 500 for officiating and doing such a great job setting everybody up and getting some good talent in here, good drivers in here. I'd like to thank Harpoon Designs for some of the paint schemes and KC for some of the paint schemes. Also, let's see, you guys in the broadcast booth, and really everybody watching and that follows Joe Gibbs Racing on Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram, all those places. Me and my team run those channels, and it's really fun to see how many people tuned in here tonight. We had tens of thousands of people that watched tonight, so it's really exciting.
Thanks for joining us, Boris. Hope to see you run strong at IRP next week. Should be a good one.
All right, have a good night.
Back over to you, Evan.
That's a chat with a couple of your top finishers tonight. I get a big thanks, Tyler Hudson, Justin Fuller, Paige Omega, for giving us an opportunity to chat with them. They're your top 3 tonight, and as well for Brian Boris Cook, one of our JGR friends here who runs the digital and social side of that. And 1 down, still 7 to go, Randy. And again, we're going to mix it up. Different tracks, different cars and such. But before we kind of look on to Lucas Oil for next week, just looking back at tonight, fun race. Got a couple of yellows there midway through. Excited runs to the end. We saw strategy on pit road play a factor, guys losing and making up spots on pit road, and I think the Rock is just a fun track.
It is, and it's unfortunate we don't get to run it too much. It'd be great to see in the Peak Antifreeze series, but of course with it not being one of the real world tracks anymore, it doesn't get the nod quite as much. But every time I do one of these sort of stronger strength, I don't want to say strength of field, but stronger races with a lot of talent around this place, it always puts on a good show. And I think it's going to be an interesting race next week. Lucas Oil, that little half-mile racetrack at IRP. The progressive banking around that little place, but not very steeply banked, and running in the truck, that should be a good one.
And just because the night is done doesn't mean that we are anywhere near the end of this series. Everybody's been saying, you know what, the season's over. We're missing some racing actions on Sundays. We've got you covered, and that will resume all the way through February of next year. But on behalf of the entire team at our end of things at RaceSpotTV, for Hugo Louise, Will Vincent, for myself, Evan Pisoko, Randy Cheneth, as well as our partners at the Sim 500 Racing League and Joe Gibbs Racing for making all of this possible, we want to thank you for tuning in tonight. point and congratulate Justin Fuller as your race winner. You can stay up to date with Joe Gibbs Racing on social media by following them on Twitter at Joe Gibbs Racing, and the place to catch these races live is at facebook.com/Joe Gibbs Racing. Action will resume next Sunday on December the 17th with a green flag at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time as the series heads to Lucas Oil Raceway for the second race on the year in the Indy JGR 200 presented by Sim 500. That race, though, and every race of this Joe Gibbs Racing off-season action series can be found right here on the Joe Gibbs Racing Facebook page and RaceSpotTV. Until next time, good night.